before I leave, mate, you're gonna have to show me the what was it, Wojcik?
Of course, dude.
Yeah,
of course.
like before I leave, mate. So I got a comp in like 4 weeks, so I want to.
Yeah, dude. Please hit it.
I want to start
please
hitting
hit it. And give it your own name too. Give it your own name just to piss somebody else off.
But yeah.
All right, boys. I think the cameras are on, so we're on. We're recording. Yeah.
Mm.
Chris, welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me. This
Nice.
is like a cool setup.
Yeah, we did our best, mate. At home, we've got a studio. If you've seen any of the episodes.
Yeah, I recently watched the one with PJ. That was the one that I first.
Yeah,
saw
that
with
was
you
released
guys.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was doing some research, and so, and I was training with PJ recently too. PJ's the man.
Yeah. Everyone says that. He seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah.
When he come on, he was like so open. It was really nice. Like,
Yeah.
He's like, really nice guy. It's it always cracks me up that you don't know who he got his purple belt from.
Yeah.
Oh man,
He's just like just walked in and he was like smashing everyone. They're like, oh, you can't be a blue belt, mate. There you go.
Yeah. He was like one of those guys who he came to jiu-jitsu like kind of later in life, I believe. He wrestled for so long.
Yeah.
You know, and just like, and it's funny. I remember Joseph saying like, because he's known as like the best wrestler in 10th Planet, but I think he's also known as like the best he's like the best leg locker in 10th. Like he has the most leg lock finishes of like the 10th Planet guys, you know. Definitely great wrestling, but like of all the 10th Planet guys, I think he has like the most like high level leg lock finishes.
Yeah, well, he finished Owen, didn't he? Recently?
Yeah.
Owen Flanagan.
Yeah.
Polaris.
Finished Elijah Dorsey at Polaris.
Yeah, I think I looked at his, I don't know how accurate it is, but the Tapology records online, and I think, his inside heel hook, like hands down, was like the most.
Was it?
Yeah, the
Just
most.
heel hooked
Yeah, the thing he
everyone.
He
finished
heel
everywhere
hooked me in 2022. I haven't let it go. But he similar kind of stuff that he does from the top, where he like catches it from the top and then adjusts his body and finishes from the bottom. And I think that's like, I stole that from that match for sure. Like he does a lot of cool stuff like that I think is, it's not as appreciated. Everyone's like, oh, PJ the wrestler. And it's like, yeah, but also PJ the leg locker.
Mate, he's just good at jiu-jitsu, isn't he? He's like one of those rare breeds who actually like really went into jiu-jitsu from wrestling. You know, some of them stick to that like wrestling style really heavily, and then they learn like a little bit of jiu-jitsu just to get by. Whereas he's like, if I didn't know that he was a wrestler before, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I wouldn't second guess it. I'd be like, oh, he's just a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dangerous combination.
Oh, mate, it's a horrible combination, isn't it? Because you're never safe forever, yeah.
Kind of, Nicky Rod is a similar like kind of situation, like, you know, good, but it's never like the best wrestlers who do it. Like PJ, I think wrestled D2. Nicky Rod, I think also wrestled D2. So it's always like the guys who like were, you know, high level wrestlers, good wrestlers, but like it's almost like if you're too good at wrestling, you're not going to get good at jiu-jitsu. Maybe someday someone will change that, but for now.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think it's that cup full theory, though, isn't it? You know, when you've got so much information in your head, trying to like take something out to add stuff in, it's just maybe a bit too much. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think I think as well, when you're so good at something, it's really hard to like pull yourself away. Like, isn't it? Like, imagine if like the D1 wrestler, how good they are at wrestling. Like, you're always going to kind of revert back to that because you know how good you are at it. You know what I mean? It's like being a really good leg locker and saying, I'm never going to leg lock.
It is hard.
Do you know what I mean?
Is something that I deal with because like I get kind of in training, I get like, you know, especially training with all those guys, like the room is so competitive that it's really hard for me to be like, if I want to really work on new stuff, I have to not do leg locks, you know?
Yeah.
And that requires me to like really like sacrifice my ego a little bit because like if I want to, I can like, you know, I'm not going to leg lock anybody, but like if I want to just sit on my butt and play guard and like, you know, I can have a session where I'll leave and I'll feel pretty good about myself. You know, like maybe I don't get past, maybe I leg lock somebody who's like, you know, I leg lock some of the best guys in the gym, or I get a few leg locks in a round, and I don't really work on anything. But like, that's not like, you know, that's not how you get better.
Yeah, it's not progression, is it? And it's hard though when like yourself, you're like very, very good at that. So it's hard, isn't it, then to like let that go and then just really work on something else, and you might get smashed more.
Yeah,
you know, especially in a room like that. You know what I mean? You're showing you like your vulnerable part of your game, and it's like they will take full advantage of everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, like when I first moved down, I like you kind of get used to like having the cameras on and training like every day, you know. So you're like, if I'm training with somebody who's like maybe like, you know, like Declan's a good example. Like I'm training with Declan. for me, the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on my butt. I'm going to shoot leg locks, not get past, hopefully, and try to get a leg lock. And then if I'm like trying to actually like improve my skills, I'm going to work on wrestling up from the guard. I'm going to work on trying to get on top, or maybe I'm going to stand up and try to take that giant man down or something, you know? So like, that's how I think I'll really like get better. But then it's like, so that's what I would do if there's no camera. But then like Freddie comes over with the camera and he's like, hey, let's get some YouTube content. And I'm like, okay, well now I'm going to do my strength because I don't want to look shitty, you know? So it's like, you have to kind of learn to let that go a little bit. And when I first moved, that was hard.
Yeah.
Now it's like I don't really care so much. Like those guys have so many videos in their like archive of me getting tapped out and submitted and everything that it's like, what's another one? But like when I first moved, it was hard.
Yeah, well, you feel it in the room though. You feel when the camera starts panning around to you, people just put in an extra 10%. No matter where you are in the room, like they're like, camera's on, and then it kind of like when the camera's on the other side of the room or something, it like eases off a little bit.
Like it almost feels like kind of like not quite like competition, but kind of like competition.
No, I agree,
because it is like, okay, now there's which is dumb because you know there's a security cameras as well, so like you're never safe.
But they're just less obvious though. When the guy's actually holding the rig and he's panning around you, it's a little bit more in your face than just the cameras on the wall, right?
Yeah, but which is like I like that. I think that it's cool that like we have the kind of like a lot. I remember when I used to train because I came from like a small gym in Chicago. We never had a camera at training, like ever, you know. And we had a security camera, but it was blurry. Like I could see what was happening, but I couldn't even tell that it was me.
Yeah,
you know?
You could deny your identity if anything bad happened. So
but I think
right.
mate, most gyms in the world are not.
Yeah.
Like that's why B-Team has become so successful because they have literally like capturing your live training constantly. You know, it's like
definitely
it's like a fishbowl in there. You know, you definitely feel it a little bit, but it's I think it only makes people better though. In all honesty, I think it just improves like the room standard because everyone's trying not to look shit. Do you know what I mean? Because like you said, if you're even pretty good or you got a bit of an ego, you want to try and look good on camera. You don't want to look like we were laughing yesterday with Linus and about the throw that Nicky done on him.
Oh yeah,
and he's like, that's got 1 million views.
Oh, I'm sure. That was a brutal.
He was like, I was concussed after, you know. Just things like that, you know, and you think that is funny.
Yeah. How long have you been at B-Team for now?
So I first came down to, I visited for the first time in 2022. I was a brown belt. I had bleach blonde hair. You know, I like paid the drop-in fee like everybody.
You look a bit crazy. I've seen the photo.
Yeah, you see it. And so that was like the first time I visited, and then I came back down in 2023 to visit for a weekend, and this was like when I was kind of like already I was a black belt now, a little bit more established like on the competition scene. And all the guys were like, oh, you should come back for a month. And I was like, okay. So, and I was like kind of getting ready to be done in Chicago because like Chicago's cool. It's a cool city, but like it's really cold. And also it's like there's not a ton of like high level jiu-jitsu. So like I was training at one gym on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was driving to train at another on Tuesdays. I was driving to train at another on Thursdays. On the weekend, I would go somewhere else. I was traveling all the time. I was like, I'm going to like go try to like just train at one place for a month and make my life a little easier. And so I came down for a month in April of 23. And then I was like, okay, I get it. I'm going to move. And then I had like, you know, no reason not to. I didn't really have like a job or anything back home. So I moved in July of 2023 full time.
Nice. And how's that transition coming from like there to here, like for your life? Was it like you just went straight into full-time jiu-jitsu?
It was tough because like I did not really make any money the first year. Like,
really?
Like, you know, I saved a ton of money. I've always been writing on the internet, like on the side, you know, to kind of pay for jiu-jitsu. But I wasn't like making any money through doing jiu-jitsu really for the first year that I was down here. So I was like traveling, doing seminars, instructional, was making a little bit of money, but it was mostly like kind of just like writing and hoping that eventually I would be able to make money doing jiu-jitsu, you know? And so that was probably till I got invited to ADCC, and then I got like some sponsorships from that. Luckily I did well. So it kind of like was able to kind of spiral into more opportunities. Yeah. And then I was able to do well. Like I did well at PGF, I did well at DBI, and those kind of spiraled into more. And now then I did Polaris in February. So now
WNO.
it's the WNO, and so kind of like been able to turn it into a career. But I was like, literally like in May of last year, I was like, maybe it's time to move back.
Really?
Yeah. So
Do you think the opportunities have come? Obviously, you've done well at ADCC, but also being around the boys at B-Team and seeing like does that give you any more opportunities?
yes, definitely. I think like, it's hard because there's a lot of like guys in the room. So it's like, you don't just show up and get opportunities by being in there. It's like, you need to kind of like prove yourself a little bit, because everybody wants to show up and kind of have things kind of fall into their lap. And I feel like, for me, the moving kind of got me to the level where I was able to like when I got opportunities, there was not really a ton of like, Chris doesn't deserve this or whatever. It was like pretty much like I was able to like kind of grow into the opportunities that I was getting. So that by the time, by training with those guys every day, I was like, by the time I got them, I was like, I belong.
Yeah, I bet that felt pretty good, really, once you've got it. It's so hard for jiu-jitsu athletes, isn't it, though? People don't realise the grind to get to the top, like, just to earn money, like, just to do it as a living. If you were, like, in that 1% that's doing it, you've done pretty well.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, when I moved, I thought that I had already kind of, it's like kind of like you don't know how far you have to go because you don't know how far you really, like, you just have no idea how hard it takes to get to the top, So, like, I did I was like doing well in like kind of the kind of mid-level submission only tournaments and like, doing well in like, I made top 4 at the trials back in 2023. So like I had a good year, or 2022, sorry. So, and that was at 77 kilograms. And I thought that I was at the top tier then because like I had a close match with William Tackett. I had a close match with PJ at the time. And so I was like, oh, I'm already at the top level. And then I came down here and I was like, no, I suck. Never mind. And so like that kind of was eye-opening. And I was like, okay, I have to kind of forget this like idea that like I'm there already. And I need to just totally like immerse myself in this environment and trying to get to the true top tier. And then even now there's like kind of that sense of like imposter syndrome. Like, oh, am I really at the top, or is this? Am I gonna have like a moment where I realize that I haven't gone as far as I thought I did, But definitely now I feel like it's kind of settling in, like just kind of the opportunities that I've been getting offered recently. I'm like, okay, I think this is it.
Yeah.
And how's the training compared to like back home? We've obviously got the different caliber of athlete, but the sort of training schedule and intensity in Chicago versus here?
Yeah, so when I was in Chicago, I was doing it all on my own. I wish I had known about the like eco stuff back then, because like that I think is kind of a way that you can get really good without having like tons of high level partners, but now it's like over at B-Team, it's like we're kind of doing that, like with the base training and when he was here in the summer, he was doing height training and the connection rounds and at night when we go in, we're doing like kind of the same kind of stuff, like single leg rounds and stuff like that for like wrestling. But it's like really it's the hard session at noon down here, and then I'll lift usually, and then 3 nights a week or so I'll go in at night and do more drilling with Dima and the guys, and then I teach the 7:00 class Wednesday, Thursday right now. So like pretty busy schedule, but like I have a lot of time open in the morning and during the day to kind of do other stuff, which is good. And then when I was in Chicago, we would do a hard session. Like I said, I was driving everywhere, but like I do a hard session with my coach Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning. I'd lift at like midday, and then I would teach at night. But I was teaching kids, and then I would do a private, and then I would teach adults, and then I would clean the gym. So it was like that kind of. It was like a different kind of grind, And then I would on Tuesdays and Thursdays usually I had the night off, so of teaching, so I would go to another gym, or I would drill with some buddies like in a garage or something. And it was like it was good, but it was not it was super self-structured, which is basically like as structured as you're like feeling on that day. So like some days we go in and it's like we're feeling really good, we're feeling motivated, maybe a match happened, so we do like this really structured session, but then maybe it's like a few weeks go by, the spark kind of fades a little bit, And then it's like, now we're just doing open mat.
Yeah.
Which is the nice thing about having like Dima in here, because he comes and goes. He's here like for 2 months, then he's leaving for a few months, then he's coming back for a few months. The nice thing is like when he's here, it's like, I just show up to train. I don't have to think about like, what am I working on today? Or, what is the, what am I studying, this or that? I can kind of like just show up, which is nice. I like to just kind of show up and train and then go home and not really think about jiu-jitsu until I go back and do more jiu-jitsu, you know? Versus when he's not here, it's like, okay, I got to study it. I have to study an instructional, otherwise we're just doing open mat when we go to the gym. I have to watch some matches or, listen to like a BJJ mental models or something like that to like kind of learn some kind of strategy to, have a structured session.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I always wonder when you're at sort of the level that you guys are at, sort of where the focus kind of goes in regard to your development. Do you kind of, it sounds like a little bit like you appreciate that input from a coach, but maybe when he isn't there, like how do you try and select what instructionals to watch and what content to listen to build? Yeah,
so the nice thing is that now that like, now that I know Dima better, it's like we have this kind of dialogue off of like out when he's not here, we like message and stuff and be like, he'll like last time he's like, we need to work on your wrestling, we need to work on your passing, and then there's like some kind of little things from the guard because I don't get passed much from the guard, but like there are like I feel like I could make my entries tighter and little things like that. So it's like now I have kind of some things that are like there are weaknesses to address, which is like really kind of what you need. Like it's like otherwise I'll just like kind of like we said at the beginning, like I'll just show up and I'll play guard and try to not get past and shoot leg locks and have a nice session but not actually improve. So now that I have these like kind of bullet points to work on, I have kind of that leads to that leads to like kind of instructionals that I might go into or matches I might watch or like if he's like, okay, we want to work on your wrestling, okay, I'm gonna watch who are the best wrestlers in jiu-jitsu. I'll watch like like PJ is a good example, or like maybe if I want to watch some judo, like Owen Livesey, or I like to watch J-Flow because I've trained with him a lot in San Diego. But like now I have kind of people to study. And then, now that he's here, it's like, okay, I've been doing my own kind of stuff, studying for the last few months, but it's okay, like, let's make this into a system, because I feel like one thing that I was doing a lot was I was like kind of getting in like I would watch like an instructional or a YouTube video and I'd be like, oh, this move is great for my body type. And I would get really good at that move, but then like, I don't have anything to do if the move doesn't work because the next thing that I know is like 3 steps away from that, So like having like a step-by-step system and then kind of repping that system in like live settings or like, sub-live settings, that kind of lower heart rate training to like kind of get my my understanding of it to a high level.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And in regards to like innovation, footlocks, for example, like how do you typically approach that? Are you kind of in the gym with the body, just playing around with body mechanics? How does that normally sort of materialize? Yeah,
it's funny because like I loved Keenan when I was like coming up, and Keenan was like always inventing shit, and I'm like, now I have a move after me. It's amazing for me because like I always loved worm guard. I loved like Keenan's YouTube was always just moves that he made up. So like to have like something that I kind of, like I didn't invent it, I just kind of maybe discovered it, and like my old coach Jeff Seraphin back in Chicago kind of helped me with it, and we worked on it together. And then I just came down here and I started using it, and there was a camera, so it got named after me instead of the next guy who works on it 10 years from now or whatever. But really, it was kind of just like answering problems, like for like solving problems, because like 50-50, anytime they turn the foot away from you, you can't heel hook. So what do you got to have an attack for the other direction. So I would always, try to attack the straight foot lock. And obviously you can't do heel hooks in the gi. And I was doing gi back in the day. And so it's like, okay, here's a foot lock that is 1, legal in the gi, 2, solves the heel hook problem. And so it's really just anything that I would come up with would just like be kind of solving problems. And some things work, some things would solve the problem, some things would maybe solve the problem once. So like I was working on something recently from 50-50, if like you can't get the foot unweighted, and I hit it in training on like a high level partner. So I was like, oh, this is the thing. And then I tried to like work on it the next day, and it didn't work anymore. So I'm like, okay, this is not a thing.
It's the party trick.
But like, just like kind of trying different things and like being willing to like be creative, but not like also being okay with like losing and like abandon. Like, I don't even remember really the setup for that move that I was talking about from a few weeks ago. It's like, I just remember I tried it. It worked once. I thought, oh, this is the next big thing. And then it didn't work again. So, moved on to the next one. And so I think having like different, or having like a mindset that you can like just try stuff, and it's okay if you didn't learn it from anybody,
Yeah, that's cool. And I guess it feels like there's quite a few innovators at B-Team at the moment as well. Something that are coming out. We talked a little bit about Joseph yesterday and Owen as well. So you've got some good guys, I guess, to bounce ideas off of as well. Do you find like collaborating and discussing concepts and ideas really helpful as well?
Yeah, I love doing like kind of like the tinkering stuff, like kind of just talking about moves or ideas with like, especially like Joseph and Owen. Like, there have been so many times in this camp where I feel like it's like us and a couple other guys have just been sitting in the corner, just kind of worked. Yeah. And we're like 10 steps beyond, or like maybe not even like beyond isn't even right. Like, we're just 10 steps in a different direction from what's being shown. But it's like, we kind of like take one thing and then it's like, okay, what would you do if they do this? And it's like, oh, no, I don't know. So let's try this. And then we're like kind of in like the flow chart is like, we're way off map, but it's still like creative, and, we're learning, and it's kind of, it's enjoyable,
It's still relevant though, isn't it? Still relevant, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's relevant. And it's also relevant to like just like kind of the game, right? The leg lock game, or whether we're talking. Then it's like, okay, like I remember when Joseph and them first came. Every time we would do a leg lock round, Joe would try to omoplata me, and then now I'm trying to do omoplatas to other people. So it's like you just steal like little things, and it kind of helps you. Maybe some things work, some things don't, but either way, it's like you're learning. Your understanding of grappling becomes better.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And you mentioned earlier that you like to sort of go training, switch off, and then forget, go and then come back. We talked before about, Kid Dale springs to mind, because he said that after training, he'd leave, and the whole way home he'd be thinking about stuff. Like, in his job at the time, thinking about stuff. Do you find that you're able to kind of box off jiu-jitsu, or do you find that it does kind of leak into like your thoughts like, throughout the day, and you're constantly thinking about it?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely like, I'm always thinking about jiu-jitsu, and then like, but there's sort of like, I make an effort to do other things. Because like I remember I read some book, and it was a book about sleep, I think. And I think it was the Matthew Walker, like Why We Sleep or something like that. But he was talking about like how like great musicians would be like working on a piece, and then like they'd get stuck and they'd be like, I can't figure it out anymore. And then they go to sleep. They wake up the next morning and they figure it out easy. Like they're like trying to like hammer at this problem and they just can't find a solution. They go to sleep, the next day it's easy. So I feel like if you can turn your brain off and then come back to a problem, whether it's in jiu-jitsu or just any like, anything you're trying to solve, if you just come back to it with a fresh mind, the solution might be just like right in front of you. And so I kind of try to buy into that like I try to turn my brain off so that like when I go back to training, the problem that I had yesterday is just easier.
Yeah. Do you think that mindset comes a little bit from the writing that you do as well? So writer's block you're talking about almost, right?
Yeah. So like for me, when I write anything, I like put it away for at least 6 hours.
Okay.
So I write it and then I just turn off the computer, go do something else. Ideally till the next morning, but sometimes like you have deadlines and stuff. But like if I want something to be good, there's also too, like I did a lot of client work, when I was kind of coming up that I didn't care if it was good and I would just do it and send it off. But like, if it's something that like I'm putting out under my name and I want to be good, I'm going to do it and then give it a day or 2 days, a week if it's like a big project, and let it sit and then come back to it with a fresh mind. And then you'll look at it and you'll be like, oh, this sucks. I need to change this. I didn't even realize how terrible this was. Or you'll be like, oh, this part is good, but this needs to be improved upon,
How often do you do that though, when you're doing any sort of like work and you literally leave it and you think that is amazing, come back to it a couple of days later, read it and you're like, this is dog shit. Like,
that's like most
I thought this was like groundbreaking stuff and then like it's like
dog like shit. Most of my work.
Yeah. I find that incredible though. I do it with everything, any business ideas or anything that I come up with. I think that is great. And then I'll like go back on my notes and I'll be like, what are you thinking? That's like that's fucking retarded.
Yeah, but it's a different way to look at it, because we talk a lot about like donor sports, and even yesterday with Declan, he said he was like doing some sort of scootering as a kid.
Yeah.
Like something that you wouldn't think
Micro-scooters.
transfers. Yeah. But a lot of people, I think J-Flow as well, did like jump rope. So a lot of different like sports that people do that then transfer to jiu-jitsu, and you don't often talk about the creative endeavors that you can do that might transfer to jiu-jitsu as well. But it feels like writing or creative art or something gives you that innovative type brain to then build these new things in jiu-jitsu. So it's quite an interesting way to look at it.
Well, I think about like the Martinez brothers, Gio and Boogie. They were breakdancers back in the day. Which that I think is the coolest base for jiu-jitsu. I wish it was. I wish I was a breakdancer, not a writer. But you know, here we are.
Just how you can move your body.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit cooler at a party, I think, isn't it, breakdancing over writing?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things where that would improve just your mechanics of jiu-jitsu, wouldn't it, even before you started. See, the guy I used to train with at the gym, he was like really good, really quick because he was a gymnast. He was just a gymnast. So as soon as he started jiu-jitsu, his body was just like, he was just ready. You know what I mean? Like back stepping, front flips, like whatever he needed to do. He was like, yeah, smash it.
Yeah. You mentioned like lifting and gym a couple of times as well. Is that something that's always been a part of your training?
Always. I feel like I wrestled in high school. Not like well, you know, like I did wrestling. I was on the team, but I was not like a state qualifier or like, you know, I was okay. But when I did wrestling, and this is kind of what made me fall in love with grappling was like the discipline. And part of that discipline was like you go to the weight room 3 times a week or whatever. Or we had like workouts at 6 a.m. before school a couple days. And I hated it. I hated waking up that early, but I always like felt so good afterwards that I was like, okay, I'm always going to do this. And then when I started jiu-jitsu, when I started jiu-jitsu, I did not lift at all. But I felt like, I was like 19 or 18, and my body felt like hurt. And I was like, this is not right. And like everyone, like, because all the people that you train with when you start jiu-jitsu are older, you know, when you start young. Yeah. So all the people I trained with were like, oh, you're young, your body must feel great. I'm like, my body does not feel great. So I would like try to kind of I was like, okay, maybe I need to get stronger. Just kind of like same thing, like solving problems. Like I was okay, like why do I feel like shit? Because I'm not doing any injury prevention work. And so I got kind of in, and then like started doing it for injury prevention, and then kind of just got into like, you know, not like powerlifting is not the right word for like how much weight I was lifting, but like for me it was pretty heavy, you know, like kind of like, you know, trying to do heavy deadlifts or heavy squats or bench press or whatever. And like, I feel like that kind of structure is really important for any training routine. Because I feel like it almost feels like kind of like jiu-jitsu is like the artsy thing, and then like powerlifting is like kind of the hard science, and you need like kind of both, you know. And also too, like if you want to be able to do cool shit on the mat, you need to have a body that is like fit enough to do cool shit on the mat.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, we're both coaches, so we're both personal trainers. So like the amount of times we say to people, like you've got to make your body ready for jiu-jitsu. Like when white belts and stuff start, I'm always saying to them like, start lifting. Just get your shoulders, chest strong, your posterior chain strong. Like it's so important. The amount of times how many people go, oh, I've hurt my shoulder again. But they don't ever lift, so they just haven't got the tension in the shoulders.
Well, it's funny. Like I've had a low back problem for like since 2022, something like that. Like a disc issue, and it's every time I hurt it, it's always like. Sometimes I hurt it from lifting, like if I'm overtrained and I do a heavy back squat or something, which is like, you know, I shouldn't be doing. But like if I don't lift, it gets worse. You know, like even yesterday, like we trained and it wasn't a hard day, but it was kind of feeling sore a little bit. And like a younger me would probably be like, oh, I'm going to skip lifting and rest for training tomorrow. But I went and lifted anyway. And I felt like, and I did, you know, squats and I did all that stuff. And my back felt better. It feels better today than it did yesterday, just from like doing the lifting. And I don't know if it's like, maybe it's like part of my head, but like I feel like doing the strength training helps your body recover from that kind of stuff. Like it corrects things maybe that, you know, in jiu-jitsu it's like I spend a lot of time like hunched forward or inverted or you know, and doing kind of corrective movements helps me a lot.
Jiu-jitsu is definitely not good for your body.
Oh, it's terrible.
Like if you're looking to like maintain your body, like don't do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but I think there's definitely something in it. I think, like you say, if you're like in this sort of hunched position, then sort of certainly the posterior chain is going to be lengthened to accommodate that. And then obviously if you're doing heavy lifting, then you've got to activate the muscles and strengthen it up and rebalance your body. So So I think there's definitely something in that. And how about like stretching and massage and like heat therapies? Do you do anything else to recover?
I like a jacuzzi every now and then, or a sauna.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I've done cold plunge a few times. I just hate it. I'm trying to be I feel like it's like a mental block, you know, I'll do 15 minutes with Nicky Rod before I'll do a cold plunge. You know, I don't care.
You must really hate it then.
Yeah. So I try to do it every now and then, but one thing I'll do is I'll get in the jacuzzi and then I'll get in like a swimming pool where it's like normal temperature.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go like hot to normal instead of hot to cold.
Yeah.
I like sauna. I've had a lot of experiences cutting weight with saunas, so I don't do it for very long, you know. And then I try to stretch every day, especially things around the core, hamstrings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just feel like sleep is the big thing for recovery. Like if my sleep sucks, my training sucks. If my sleep is good, training is good.
Yeah. And how about nutrition? Do you put much sort of weight or thought into that?
Yeah. I mean, not anything kind of groundbreaking. I just try to not eat bad, you know, so if it makes me feel bad, I'm like, okay, probably shouldn't eat that so much. The thing is I really like going to restaurants and eating or cooking or making good stuff. So or going out, you know, so that kind of, not partying, but going out to restaurants with my girlfriend or having a nice steak or going to a nice pizza place, that kind of stuff I really enjoy. But I also find that if I go and buy some high quality food or go to a good restaurant, even if I'm eating something that's maybe not at the top of the food pyramid, I still feel pretty good afterwards. And then if I get something that's if I get Whataburger or something like that, I feel like dog shit. So I try to just focus on whole foods. And then if I'm cutting weight, then I kind of go strict on the portion control.
Yeah, nice. Let's chat about your competition. So obviously you mentioned you got the call for ADCC last year. So tell us about how that felt getting that invite first of all.
So it's funny. This is kind of a funny story. I've never told this story on a podcast, but so my girlfriend and I went to church for the first time in my life on a Sunday of that life. It was end of April. And I told you guys I was thinking about leaving Austin or what. I was I don't know what I'm doing. So I went to church on a Sunday. Monday, I just had a mental breakdown. I just lost it. I was what the fuck am I doing? This is a terrible move. My girlfriend just moved out here. What are we doing? She couldn't get a job at the time too. So I was what are we doing? This is a mess, you know. And then I had a seminar in South Carolina. So then on Friday, I'm leaving to go to the seminar and CJI gets announced. And I'm okay. The Lord works in mysterious ways. So, because I was fourth at the trials at 88. So I was I need 2 guys to drop out and I'm in. And so William Tackett was the first one they announced. And I was okay, I need one more guy to drop out. And then later that day, I get a text from Mo being hey, can we get on a phone call? And I was oh shit, okay. So I get on a phone with Mo and he's okay, we need to talk to Abu Dhabi. I need to figure out exactly where you stand in the rankings. He's I think they're going to give it to this other guy first, and then you're going to be next, and then there's going to be this other guy after you. And I'm okay. So they put that guy in, the guy, Porfirio. All the guys that I'm mentioning were in the tournament, so I'll just name them. It was me, Porfirio, and Ryan Aiken. And I'm okay, so I'm basically in. I just need 2 guys to drop out. So then another guy drops out. There's one spot open at 88, and I'm oh, I'm going to be next. I know it. And then Mo sends me a message. And then Ryan Aiken wins EBI Absolute, which is the worst thing for me because I beat Ryan Aiken at that trials, but he won. He had a lot of hype on his name at the time. He won, EBI. So Mo is hey, sorry, they're gonna give it to Ryan Aiken, and I'm what the hell? I beat the guy. I couldn't even get the spot. So I'm the first alternate, and then later that day, I'm literally it was Thursday night. Mo was hey, they're gonna give a spot to Ryan Aiken. And I'm okay, no worries. And then they're the next day, Mo was okay, I have a spot for you. And I was oh shit. So it was I went from what am I doing? 1, going to church because I'm having an existential crisis. 2, to having a complete mental breakdown. And then by the end of the week, I had this kind of hope, and it was a 3-week saga of are we gonna get the call or are we not gonna get the call? Going back and forth. And then when we finally got in, it was Honestly, it was like more of like relief than like, because once like I was kind of in the conversation, I had that, we were like manifesting it almost, like speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
So I was like, honestly, at this point, if I don't get the call, that's going to just be super devastating. Because I was like, I built it up so much in my head that once I got the call, I was just so like super like, I was like, okay, this is like, at the time, was the biggest opportunity in my career. I was like, I'm going to make the most of this, you know, whatever that takes.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it must have been such a relief though, wasn't it? Like,
it was a crazy like 3 weeks. And then like a week and a half after that, I hurt my back really bad.
Oh no.
So it was like the first week of training camp, I hurt my back and I had like 3 weeks where I couldn't train. And then it kind of got better. And then, you know, like I said, Dima and I were kind of like moderating my volume all through the ADCC camp. And then it ended up, you know, all working out pretty well. So it was not the end of the world, but it was like that whole like May through August was just this like roller coaster.
Yeah, so you got a decent amount of time in advance to sort of camp and prep for it at least though?
Oh, for I had more than enough time to prepare for ADCC. I just like, I got injured, you know, and I was dealing with it was a tough time to deal with an injury because it was like, okay, I'm like, this is the biggest tournament of my life. I need to be training, but my back is messed up. And if I train, it gets worse. But I need to be training. Everybody else is training. This is the biggest tournament I've ever done. So it was like very kind of like that. I wasn't sleeping because I was worried about not training, which is slowing down the recovery for my back. So it was just like this whole cycle. But eventually I kind of hit the point where I was like, okay, I need to kind of just let it go. And it's like, whatever happens is fine.
Yeah, that's good, man. And obviously going into the event, obviously you were on the same side of the bracket as J-Roll, of course. But I mean, how do you typically approach like a big tournament like that? What's your mindset going into it?
Honestly, I feel like the bigger the tournament, the less pressure there is. Like I was like, you know, for me, I was like, okay, I was the 14th seed. I was like, I'm expected to lose first round, you know, who cares? And I was like, okay, but I was also kind of like, I was proud of myself because I had done all this work. I had, you know, gotten this opportunity. I had gotten my back to a point where I was healthy enough to compete. I was like doing my rehab. I was in good shape. And I was going in, I was like, okay, I wanted, one of the guys I wanted was Hinger. I forget who the other one was. And then when I got Hinger in the first round, I was like, hell yeah. Because like stylistically, I was like, I bet I can leg lock this guy. Some of the guys, like Isaac would be a tough match because he's really tough to leg lock. Or I'm trying to think who else was like the top seeds in the bracket. Giancarlo, I thought would have just been a cool match to have, you know, and I knew I would be a lower seed, so I thought that would have been a realistic first match. I'm trying to think who else. I would have liked to match with Taylor Pierman because we're both leg lockers. I think it would have been a cool shootout. And so when I got paired with Hinger, I was like, oh, awesome, I can win a match. And then when I won that, I was like super fired up, but like the way the tournament works is you kind of just go straight into the next round. And I was like, okay, I'm probably going to have Isaac because Isaac and Negromonte were going, you know, back and forth, and Isaac was like a heavy favorite. And then when Isaac lost, I was like, oh, maybe I can make day two. And the Negromonte match was like kind of a really back and forth. It was definitely a scrap. And I won basically just on initiations. Like we went to overtime and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take 1,000,000 shots on this guy, you know? And then, you know, got the decision there and then went on to day two.
Nice, man. Yeah, it was awesome. And then obviously with ADCC, it's, as you said, 2 days. So from like day one to day two, kind of what's that process like for you? But again, from a mindset perspective, but also just from like, I don't know, sort of recovery and everything else, because it's obviously a couple of tough matches in day one, right?
So the interesting thing is, historically with ADCC, they would do matches between teammates on day one in the quarterfinals, and so they changed that this year, which was, I think, great for me and Jay, you know. And it kind of like it sucked that I had to go against Jay in the semis, but I was also like this is a situation I was expecting on day one, if at all. So the fact that we're doing it, you know, on day two is like, one, it's a sign that like we're doing something right, you know, up the street. And also it was more like we trained together so much during the camp that it was like, okay, we're just going to do another round like we've been doing in training. What really sucked was like, I don't know if you saw the match with Jay, but it was like 15-minute, really high pace, a lot of scrambles. It was pretty close, the decision. And what sucked was I was exhausted after that match. And then I had to go right into a match with Felipe Costa. And, so I lost, and I wasn't too heartbroken. Like, it's like it was a decision. It was a close match. At least my teammate won, and he got to go against Giancarlo, which is a match that I think all the people wanted to see as well. And I went into the match with Felipe Costa, and I was like, okay, this is going to be everything I had left. But I was exhausted from that match and the two the day prior. Yeah. So 3 matches in. And Felipe is a big 88 kilogram guy. And so I got in on a foot lock, and I was like, I'm going to finish this dude. I sent it so hard. His foot cracked a bunch, but he didn't tap. He kicked out. And in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a bronze medal at ADCC. He's probably not going to tap to an ankle lock. So in my head, I'm like, I probably should have played that one differently, But he ended up getting on my back with like 2 minutes left. And then I got out, but just down on points. That one broke my heart a little bit because I was like, oh, I could have won this, and I screwed up tactically. And if you watch like a lot of Felipe's match, he gets in like deep water in the leg locks, and I think he's just one of those guys who's like willing to take a little damage to get the win. And in hindsight, I wish I had like maybe studied up on that or like known that. And then, but whatever. So the third place match lost. That kind of broke my heart. The semifinal match with Jay didn't really. I was okay.
Yeah. I think it's tough with those bigger tournaments, though, isn't it? Because if you're trying to analyze everybody's game, there's so many variables and who you might come against. So it is tough. But do you typically do that when you compete? Are you going in sort of technically minded and thinking about what your opponent's bringing? I know it's something that Dima talks about a lot, but yeah, what do you normally do? Yeah,
so I had the luxury of having my original coach, Jeff from Chicago. He came out and he cornered me at ADCC. Because it was like, Dima's had all the guys, and, I was like, this is like it was like a kind of coming of age moment a little bit, like I was probably the only guy who had their white belt coach corner them, at ADCC. Cool, man. And, so he studied everybody. He studied the whole division for me. Amazing, so I had kind of I went against Negromonte, and I was like, Negromonte's a beast, but I had no idea who he was. I knew he won Brazilian trials, but I didn't know what his game was. And Jeff is like, he's got good front headlock, he's got solid wrestling, he's really strong, he's going to be hard to leg lock, and I was like, good, somebody watched Negromonte, it wasn't me. I watched obviously the favorites, but I didn't watch all the guys, and Jeff went in and he studied everybody. So I was super grateful for that. Going into every match, I had kind of an idea of what to expect on every single guy.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And that whole weekend, obviously being part of B-Team and being around, obviously, ADCC and CJI as well, what was that like?
Honestly, I didn't pay attention to, I watched CJI but it was it was impossible to go because Friday night was weigh-ins for ADCC, then we had to go eat, and then, I was kind of okay, if I lose on Saturday, we'll just go hang out, we'll go party, go watch CJI, but then I won. I was like, okay, now we just got to go back to get some food, go to the hotel room. My mom went to a laundromat in Vegas and washed my gear because my mom helped me out a lot that weekend. And I remember the laundromat had a bar, so my mom sent me a picture of her and my dad in this bar laundromat in Vegas, and me and my girlfriend were getting Italian food somewhere. And but we didn't watch, and then we all met back later after dinner and everything, and we watched Craig versus Gabby on a phone in the hotel room, and then it was that match I think was at 9 or 10, and then it was straight to bed after that because I had to kind of, it was cool to watch it, but I wasn't really a part of it because the way the dates worked out.
Yeah, no, fair. And you said earlier that obviously that was sort of coming of an age thing, and you've had a ton of opportunities since. We've obviously got CJI 2 coming up this year. Are you going to be involved with that at all at this point, do you know?
Yeah, so at this point, I don't know what the exact dates they're going to release everything, but I should be involved at some point this year.
Yeah, nice. Dima talked about it a little bit yesterday, so okay. I think you're okay to talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you guys know about everything. Yeah, so I should be the 88 kilogram for B-Team at CJI.
Yeah, nice. And how are you feeling about that format and that structure? You obviously did Polaris recently, which was similar-ish in regard to the squads.
Yeah, I love the team stuff. It's super fun. I'm actually doing the AIGA in June for Aleon. That should be announced soon as well.
Yeah.
But like the team, I love that this is like the year of the team tournament. Like Polaris is doing a ton of squads. There's the, CJI 2 is a team event. There's the AIGA. I love that the team stuff is back because it's like, it's super fun. I
think it's really good viewing as well. Just from a spectator point of view, it's just way more fun. You see more of your favorite athletes together fighting each other when they're knackered as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I think that like there's a ton of like, it's just good. There's so many interesting matches that are going to happen because it's quintet style for CJI too. So like I could go against like, a 66 kilogram or a plus 99 kilogram, so it's really it's going to be interesting to see the potential matchups once all the teams and all the rosters are announced,
Yeah, when you think about, because I know there's a lot of speculation about who might be in the European squad. Some of them you would have faced recently.
Yeah.
I think 10th Planet have got theirs confirmed. We kind of know what B-Team's looking like. And then you've obviously got the North, South Americans as well. And then I think the Australasia guys as well, and Lachlan's doing the trials. When you think about like what those teams could look like, who do you think could be like the biggest challenge for the B team to maybe come against?
I mean, it's going to depend on who New Wave chooses, right? If New Wave, if Marigali is ready, that changes things. Because I'm assuming they would have Big Dan, Marigali, maybe Luke Griffith, Taza.
Imagine if Gordon
Dorian.
just rocked up.
It's never gonna happen.
I know he's not. But imagine if Gordon was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go take a milli."
Yeah, so like if they choose, depending on who they choose, they will be definitely. I mean, and even if they don't choose, like even if Marigali doesn't do it, like
They're still good. Yeah,
they're still good. So they're really dangerous. I think the Australasia team is going to be. Depending on who their 66 is or who their I forget which weight it is.
The 66 is going to be a wild card.
Okay, so I don't know who their 66 will be, but Lucas Kennard is a monster. Levi is incredible. Depends on who wins the trials, but they're going to be a super tough team. That the jiu-jitsu in that part of the world is like super good. The Europe team, I mean, it's going to depend on who exactly is chosen at each weight, but I'm assuming Taylor, O'Flanagan, Mateus. I'm just trying to think about who else was on the Polaris squad. Honestly, maybe just be the Polaris squad. Yeah, that team was like literally the best grapplers in Europe.
That Polaris squad was good.
Yeah, that was a really good team.
Yeah, that was a good team. But just interesting to see what Owen's going to end up being on. Owen Jones.
Yeah,
because he's fighting Ethan to see who's going on B team. But if he doesn't, I imagine he'll just go straight into the European squad anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I assume that's kind of how it's going to go, which is like. It's cool that they're doing it like that. I think that's like, it's fair and,
Do you know why J-Rod's not doing it?
It's like kind of some off the mat stuff.
Is it?
From what I understand.
Yeah, okay. And then when you think about possible matches for yourself, so you're obviously a competitor, you're someone who probably likes to test your style against other styles. They're thinking about some of the possible matches that you might have, maybe people that you've not faced before, or people that you have and maybe want to get a match back with? Like who are you thinking about maybe competing against that excites you?
So we mentioned it, we talked about him a bunch at the beginning of this interview, but PJ would be an awesome match. So PJ heel hooked me for $5,000 in 2022. And I think that I was I think still a brown belt at the time or a brand new black belt. And I felt like that was a really competitive match. And so I'd love to have that one back. I'm trying to think about who else. I guess the cool thing is I can think about guys at any weight class. So like I would love to go against Pato because he's like that's who I study mostly is Pato. So if I could go against Pato, that would be sick. Levi would be really cool. Is there an Atos team?
I think so. Yeah.
So I'm assuming there'll be some Rotolo brothers in there.
So they're saying like Penna might be their heavyweight, Duarte, Rotolo's. Maybe Junior. I don't know the 66s, but their team's going to be...
They might do a wild card.
Yeah, their team's crazy.
Yeah, that would be a cool one. They might be the favorites, right, with Penna.
I think if they get everyone in, like those four, if they get the two Rotolos...
I wonder where...
that's
is there
so
a Pedigo team? Because I think... I'm wondering...
I don't think so.
I wonder where Dante will go. Because Dante, he'll be a wild card for sure. So Dante is a guy, when I lived in Chicago, Dante trains out of Toledo, which is about 4 hours. So I used to drive all the time to go train with those guys back in the day. Yeah. And so I've trained a lot with Dante. And so and he beat the hell out of me in the training room back, because I've been training with him since I was at purple belt, so I kind of was he was the first world-class grappler I trained with, so that would be a cool match, kind of similar to like a coming of age match, to go from kind of being this guy's dummy to sharing the mat, would be cool. So that'd be a cool one if he's a wild card for somebody. The Corby brothers, I like to study the little guys, so those would be cool matches to have.
Yeah, that obviously had that, I forget the name of the tournament now, obviously the one that Ethan was in.
Salvatero.
Yeah. So yeah, they did great in that. I think both matches against Pato were amazing to watch as well.
Yeah. They were the first ones that made Pato look human.
Yeah.
Pato is he's been so dominant for I think 2 years now. Even at ADCC he lost to Baby Shark, but was there gonna be or would they just be a Brazilian team?
I think it's South American.
South American.
I think, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, even against what was it? I lost. Oh yeah, against Baby Shark, he still he mounted him at the beginning. He kind of gassed her, I think, but amazing performance in all those matches, and kind of looked superhuman. But against the Corby brothers, he had a hard time getting anything going. So
yeah, it's ecological training, huh?
I'm trying to learn about the ecological stuff. I'm trying to understand the what makes it work.
Mate, we've had so many discussions on it, and it's
I want to buy some of the books, but the books are $50. It's I was oh, I'm gonna buy the ecological guide to learning skills.
I got them on Audible for one credit.
Oh, it's 1 credit on all. Yeah. There we go. That's okay. I'm gonna look this up after we get off this podcast.
Yeah, but I think chatting to so many people now, PJ, Kivan, it sounds like Greg's he's really kind of innovated something using that science to apply it to jiu-jitsu, and from what I understand, Greg's really sort of forthcoming and giving with his time as well. So maybe check the books out and then maybe reach out to him. I'm sure he'll give you a hand.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, he I remember back in the day, from Chicago, there was a Midwest Finishers is a tournament out of Chicago. It's an EBI rules tournament, and I used to do gi tournaments, and I remember the Corby brothers from the gi tournaments back in the day. And they always did super, well at purple and brown belt. And then they kind of disappeared for a while. And then they would show up at these Midwest Finishers and win the cash bracket and kind of submit everybody, or, So they were I remember that was when I first heard of the standard jiu-jitsu. But this was even before the ecological thing was I knew standard jiu-jitsu, and then I found out months later that they were, they're oh, we don't drill or whatever.
What's your thoughts on that at the moment? Obviously, ecological training is something that's of interest to you, but I take a lot of benefit from drilling, and obviously training at B-Team this past week, there is a combination of both. It seems to some degree. I mean, what's your sort of preferred way of acquiring skill? Is it drilling? Is it ecological training?
So I think that at least where I'm at, is I feel some things are meant to be drilled. I was training I was on the road the last 2 weeks. And last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I was in San Diego, trained with PJ, and his training was all ecological. It was we did 6 or 7 games, and that was training, and it was fun. And then the next weekend, I was in Florida. I was training at, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cade Cetos. He was in that Zapatero bracket. He's top 15 at 155. Very Wagner black belt, very, very good grappler, but he's really into that too. So I had kind of 2 weekends back to back where I was doing a ton of ecological training. And that's kind of what made me these guys are all really good. They're not really drilling very much. But even some things within those, we were doing this back system, and it's the it's 2-on-1, and you have to tie the grips a certain way. It's maybe you could discover this through ecological training, but I think a faster route would be to drill it, because it's you would kind of you might discover it on your own, but I think it's some things you need to be learned through a step-by-step process. And then some things need to be learned maybe through like kind of like base or like outside movement or, you know, footwork, stuff like that I think can be learned through kind of like games or like live training or whatever. So I think that a balance of both is really important.
Yeah, I pretty much agree, mate. I think there's some intricate details in jiu-jitsu I just think I would never get. Do you know what I mean? I could eco it.
Yeah.
But I'd never get those certain details.
Yeah, well, like I teach a lot of leg locks, you know, because like at this point, like for a long time, I was used to be like quite good at body lock passing back when it was really popular. So like all my seminars were either body lock passing or leg locks. Now they're just all leg locks. And like one detail on leg locks that is really important, whether it's for heel hook, straight ankle lock, or aoki lock, or you know, Woj lock, whatever, is like getting your elbow down by your rib cage. And pretty much everybody who I teach it to, when I go around a seminar, I'm like, okay, elbow down. And like it fixes most issues, you know? And it's one of those things that like, maybe you could learn it through like live training, but if you just have someone like tell you like, hey, grab this, and then when you have this bite, retract the elbow, it kind of fixes that sort of issue with like security and makes it easier to finish. So that I think like, or just certain details like that are super easy to learn through just reps. And I also I used to do micro drilling, which is like Lloyd Irvin made it popular in like the 2010s, and I learned about it from my coach Jeff. And what we would do is I would grab the foot lock and I would get the bite really tight, and then let it go. And then grab it and get it tight, and just keep repping it, you know. And I would do like 10. Like this is like the opposite of ecological training.
Well, this is where Greg started, funny enough, with Lloyd. So he's a Lloyd Urban black belt.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he did all the drilling, and then it's obviously sent him completely the other direction. So I don't think he enjoyed it much.
That explains it. I did not know. That's full circle.
That's it, yeah.
But like I like that the kind of micro drilling, like drilling just small movements, or like, you know, I would do it with like knee cuts, like shooting a knee cut, or you know, whatever. But like, I think drilling works, but I think that maybe the eco stuff is more efficient. So like if you're a casual practitioner, like you're kind of familiar with the fundamentals and you maybe want to get to the next level faster, maybe it's better to do some games, but like certain skills need to be drilled.
No, I agree with that, mate.
I'm probably there. That's probably famous last words.
Yeah, we're pretty much done, mate. Do you want to shout any sponsors or anything before we let you go?
Shout out to Grapple Science and Athletic, two of my sponsors for WNO. Shout out to everybody at B-Team. Shout out to my coach, Jeff Seraphin, back in Chicago. And thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
That was fun. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.